tremendous looking trophy.
Welcome to the One PlayStation Podcast in the Oceanias. My name's Dylan White. Joining me, Ashley Holborn.
Hey Dylan, excited to be here on day 763 of the quarantine.
That's like a year and a month. That's been a long quarantine we've been in. I haven't even realised that's how long we've been in quarantine, but if you say so, it must be true.
April's been a long month.
it has indeed, and it will continue to be a long months. This week in the trophy cabinet, bronze trophy for maybe you don't need to worry about Ghost of Tsushima. A gold trophy, Ash has finally beat Final Fantasy VII so we can get his full thoughts. And we're going to hit a platinum with this. The big story, the big PlayStation story from last week was this Bloomberg report that dropped a day after we recorded, the day after the podcast release last week. So that's good. Also, Bloomberg, now where Jason Schreier works. There you go. There's your...
what a coincidence.
What a coincidence. Yeah, that's how all that...
That doesn't sound like a new outlet.
No. A new outlet. Oh, they're expanding that game coverage. So this story is called Sony Plans Limited PlayStation 5 Output in the First Year. So it's not that long, really, but I'll just kind of read the main bits and pieces and chunks here. But so it says Sony plans to produce far fewer units of its upcoming PlayStation 5 in its first year than had in previous generation consoles launch, according to people familiar with the matter. The Tokyo-based tech giant is limiting its initial production run in part because it expects the PS5 ambitious specs to weigh on demand by leading to a high price at launch. The people said asking not to be identified because of the subject is private. The global COVID-19 pandemic has affected Sony's promotional plans for new device, but not its production capacity, they added. So none of that's really mind-blowing. Of course, we all expected there to be less PS5s because of the parts and whatever. The company has told assembly partners it would make 5 to 6 million units of the PS5 in its physical year ending March 2021, according to other people involved in the main supply chain. When Sony released the PlayStation 4 in November 2013, it sold 7.5 million in its first 2 quarters. So, I actually don't think that's shock. I don't think the number they're making is as low as you may have assumed it to be. You know, and although it's worth pointing out when the PS5 did release, I remember there being lots of stories about PS4. Yeah, I remember there being lots of stories, especially in America and places, bigger places, not anywhere near me. And I don't think I saw anyone in Australia, but people where they couldn't get a PS4 for months and months, and they had to back order that sucker until early 2014. Although, I remember my local, everyone I knew who wanted one got one if you pre-ordered it, right? If you pre-ordered, you were good. I didn't know anyone that went to pre-order one and got told, no, you can't. So, but then my store had none on shelves. So it seemed like they got allocated pre-order stock only, and then they didn't get any new PS4s until closer to Christmas time. I think there was like a month between. So I think that, and I think that might have been I guess EB Games got given their stock or whatever, and instead of sending each store like X amount to sit on a shelf, they were, for some of the smaller stores, I guess they were just like, look, just give the pre-orders, fill the pre-orders, and we're good. So I would expect the same sort of thing to happen. And if you're planning on pre-ordering one, I think you should be fine still, is what my guesstimate would be. I just think if you, in it here, Australia possibly. I think when you go to the more bigger, America, you'll probably see more problems. Japan, problems. I don't think Australia will struggle as much. I don't feel like I'll struggle as much, right? No. Tasmania can get 500. I don't know. I'm getting one, you know? I'll fucking kill the next person down the street to get one. So.
Seems extreme, but okay.
Did they do a PlayStation podcast number 1 in Oceanias? No, I didn't think so, right? So they should basically bow down and give this. That's how it works.
You're essential PlayStation purchaser.
I'm essential PlayStation purchaser. That is a good way of putting it, yeah. Then continues, the PS5's loftier price tag may also deter initial take-up. Game developers who have been creating titles for the next PlayStation anticipate its price to be in the range of $499 to $549, and Bloomberg's Intelligence's Matthew Catterman points to increased component costs pushing up the price required for Sony to break even. Sony has struggled with its price-setting decision for the PS5 because of scarce components, Bloomberg News has reported. $499 to $549. So I think we're looking at probably $749, $799, $849. Probably in that ballpark-ish. Something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Do you have a price? Are you like, no, that's it. I can't buy it. That's too high. Do you think there is a price?
Well, I mean, I'm budgeting for like $750, so.
But how further? So if you're budgeting for $750, surely even if it's $100, you're like, look.
Yeah, $100. Probably like $100. I mean, as long as it's under 1,000. I mean, I think. It's a weird time. It's a weird time because obviously you look at our phones; they're like $1,000 a piece. Like,
more.
We get one of those every couple of years. So, I mean, this one device I'm going to keep for 8 something years and get a bunch of joy, and is essentially going to be the media hub probably for my entertainment system. I mean, it's not an incredible investment, especially considering I didn't pay for my PS4 back in the day. So, yeah.
I honestly don't think I have a price. I think I'm a complete sucker, and I would just pay whatever. But
$2,000 PS5.
No, that's too much. I feel like even if it's $9,999, I would pay it. You know, so I'm willing to admit I am definitely not the general Joe Schmo who has a breaking point for this, and I'm definitely not a fence sitter who is quite happy, like someone who switched from 360 to PS4 and now they're like happy. They would happily swing back to Xbox or continue with PlayStation. You know, someone who's happy to just go wherever the console, the best one they deem. So it's like for those people, the price may matter. But it also, the Xbox is just going to be around the same price anyway. I honestly feel like when it comes down to it, I just feel like there's going to be $50 difference or something like that between the two. Like, I really don't think there's going to be 100, 150. If there is, I will be quite surprised and eat my words. But at the moment, I feel like there's just going to be roughly 50. 50 American, it'll probably end up being 100 Australian, actually, so I'll change that. So if it's 50 American difference, it'll probably end up being 100 Australian difference.
So for perspective, PS3 launched at 829 Australian for the 20 gig drive. And $999 for the 60 gig drive. So, I mean, if we hit around those sort of prices again, I wouldn't be surprised.
I can't. It's so weird because I can't even remember like paying for my PS4, and not to say I didn't.
That was PS3 because obviously the PS3 was exuberantly priced.
Yeah, I didn't get a PS3 until
way late in the cycle,
several years into the cycle.
Yeah.
So I was not playing that, but PS4 was my first day one console purchase with games and everything. So I would have paid a decent chunk of change because I got like 4 games day one, whatever. So, and I honestly don't even remember budgeting for it. I was just like, YOLO, this money, whatever. Here we go. My first day one console. Let's go. Knack, give it to me. Whatever, all these games, give them to me. I need more. Don't even fuck around. Sony's strategy, according to several people familiar with its plans, will be to rely on incumbent PlayStation 4 models as a bridge to get new users onto the PlayStation platform's network services while the PS5 remains in limited supply, the people said. Yep, of course. Currently, Sony sells the PS4 for $300 and higher-end PS4 Pro for $400. The company may cut these prices around the time the PS5 launch to stimulate new subscribers for the PlayStation Plus membership program and PlayStation Now game streaming service. The people said. Sony's chief executive officer Kenichiro Yoshida has said the company will aim to increase recurring revenue rather than one-time hardware purchases, aka streaming services. The PS5 production volume could still change depending on COVID-19 situation, the people said. Sony has asked employees to work from home to mitigate the spread of the virus, and its board has been unable to approve business plans for the current fiscal year, including those for the PlayStation unit. That meeting was originally supposed to take place in March. Sony said last month that it plans to release results for the year ended March on April 30th, but may be forced to push the date back due to the pandemic. The virus has already upended Sony's promotional plans. The company may forego hosting a public press conference for its PS5 release date and price unveiling due to infection fears. Recently, it was forced to reveal its DualShock PS5 controller in a hurried fashion, according to people informed on the matter. While only a small circle within Sony are privy to the appearance of the PS5 console, the controller has been shared with outside developers, and the company feared it couldn't control leaks, they said. Control pun, yeah, go for it. Still, Sony is unlikely to delay the launch of the PS5 from the critical year-end shopping season so long as arch rival Microsoft Corp doesn't push back the release of its next-generation Xbox. Also expected at the end of the year. Sony won't delay either, the people said. Some analysts believe the closest contest for attention between the PlayStation and Xbox, especially in the US, may force both companies to sell the new consoles at a loss. They say... Here's the thing. So, here's all the stuff floating around that could lead to us actually finally getting a PS5 reveal next month. Next month is the current go-to theoried thing with enough proof and weight to it to actually lead some credence. And there's been other reports from VGC and places I've read over the last week that have their own sources, unnamed sources that say similar things, but it seems that Sony so as they say here, they're supposed to have this meeting last month where all the big heads were going to lock in the final details for like how they plan to reveal it, what details they were going to show, all this sort of shit. And obviously at the time they would have probably planned on doing a press conference with people there in attendance like we've always thought was going to happen in the next month. So they were supposed to sit down, finalize details this month, do the thing next month. They can still do the thing next month, but it's obviously not going to be a actual thing where people are invited to see it. It'll be a pre-recorded video stream, state of play, something like that. Now, I think the main thing that could add proof to say that this is why they're going to reveal it next month is that they were planning on... Originally, they were planning on starting production of the PS5 in June. Now, they're still trying to start production of it in June. However, they obviously are meeting lots of roadblocks to get there. And even if they do start production in June, it's obviously going to be a lot slower and stilted, and maybe they've had to change plans from originally, but they still want to start production in June. And if they don't start production in June, and if the longer they push back starting production, then the PS5 simply won't come out this year, because there was another thing from Jim Ryan earlier late last week or whatever, from that big thing he put out where he wants to make sure it's a global release. He's like, I don't want it to release Japan first, Europe, he wants it globally, like they did the last console. And the proof in the pudding for why not to do to make sure you do that is Xbox released in Japan. I think the Xbox One released in Japan like a couple months after America and Australia and Europe and whatever else. And I remember seeing all these videos on Twitter of just no one lining up for it. No one cared. Everyone's like, cool, I got my PS4. No one gives a fuck about this thing anymore, So they need to start production next month, which means if they're going to start production, they need to officially reveal it, or stuff will just start leaking, So I'm kind of buying into this next month. That's where my current bet is. I'm into it. Are you into it? Or are you going to be like, no, Dylan, fucking blah, blah, blah?
Maybe, just because obviously the news cycle is a bit... Any positive news is going to get... or any big industry news is going to get like massive coverage at the moment. But I don't know. I feel like they'll wait until the last possible moment. So I don't think there's a rushed... at the moment, particularly to put out anything.
But I'm saying if they start production and it starts leaking, are they going to risk having the details of the PS5, potentially a full photo of a PS5 leaking from someone working in a production facility, putting together this thing, over just doing the event, doing a state of play or some shit?
Just increase security in the factories.
You can't increase security. They're not allowed to work anymore. They're going to have a bunch of robots making these things, and then there's going to be like one person.
Exactly. Robots aren't going to leak anything.
There's going to be one person at one end of the factory and one person at the other end. One person like fucking click and go, and another person checking that everything's good.
And those two people are going to be on security cameras the entire time.
You say this like stuff doesn't leak all the time. That's the current go-to theory. I think it adds up. I think, and the other thing, important thing with this whole thing is, oh my God, I'm saying is a lot. They were supposed to start it in June, still plan to start it in June. If we hear anything about them moving production, plan to start it in June. Yeah. If we hear anything about them having to push it to July, August, I really at that stage I'm become very doubtful that the PS5 actually releases this holiday season.
I mean, maybe Sony and Xbox should just get in the room and like say, maybe we should just delay it. Not play this game of production chicken.
It'd be actually better for them to do is just to be like, how about we just all do it under the same roof and like everyone just chill. We'll just make our consoles together. It'll be fine. Like we'll just have one safe area. We'll share parts. Let's go for it. Let's do what we need to do. So the last thing that was in here was to add on to this. Suppliers have started delivering components to PS5 assemblers who are scheduled to begin mass producing the product by June. Sony's PlayStation chief Jim Ryan has stressed that the machine's launch should be simultaneous around the globe, according to people with the company's supply chain. COVID-19 travel restrictions have prevented Sony engineers from flying to China to direct final adjustments before assembly plans go into mass production. Sony's assembly partner has voiced concern last month about meeting the production deadline. However, those worries have since abated, and it should now be able to meet Sony's requested schedule, people familiar with the decision said. On the software front, Sony has publicly warned that the COVID-19 pandemic may affect the game's production pipeline for titles destined for its next console, which is a problem the entire industry is grappling with. That's the whole thing is all of these consoles are going to launch with fuck all games, or they're going to launch with a bunch of remakes type stuff. So the new confirmed PS5 next gen game, whatever. Bloomberg team officially announced Observer System Redux as a next gen project, while the studio remains silent about specific platforms. Fans can expect to dive in later this year during the holiday season, right to PlayStation Lifestyle. Enhanced graphics, fidelity isn't all the Redux is bringing to the table either. Bloober team is updating Observer's gameplay mechanics as well as introducing extra story content. They released a little teaser of it on Twitter. I've never played Observer. I've always kind of wanted to play it because it's like a cyberpunk horror game. They're adding new gameplay, updating the graphics. Cool, sounds great. But this is, as well as being on the very short list of PS5 games officially confirmed, that's more or less what I expect the PS5 to launch with. Lots of jigs. You know what I'm saying? No Horizon 2 Dawn or whatever. No Spider-Man Take It to Tubity New York City. None of these games, right? Observer, Redux. Another indie game, Redux. Crisis, Remake, Reduxed. These are what we're going to be getting. Godfall. Yep. Knack.
1 and 2 bundle.
Yeah. Now in 60 frames per second. Go hard. You can now feel the parts of Knack as he reforms his body through the controller, the PlayStation DualSense controller. Everyone get excited for that. But yeah, let's add that to the list. Played it from start to finish. How many hours did it take you? Final Fantasy, let's go.
I think I got 35, 38, something like that. Somewhere in that range. saved a screenshot of my final screen. Probably should have pulled it up before this, but yeah, it's good, really good. Obviously, no context for what the story was or where it's been.
Not without spoilers, but important question actually to get out of the way. When the game finished, were you like, I will go look up and get answers to questions I have, or were you like, I'm good, I just want to kind of go with the flow here?
I did have questions, and I was thinking, yeah, I'll look these up, but it was like 1 o'clock in the morning when I finished. I'm like, I'm going to bed.
Yeah.
And I never got around to checking it up.
Tried finishing at 6 o'clock in the morning after playing for like 8 hours straight.
I will say several times I'm like, oh, this will be an odd place to stop it, because I thought multiple times that was where it's going to end, because you always kept saying it ends weird. But no, it ends on a full climactic battle that makes sense. And it definitely feels like the end of a season of television, you know, because it definitely like leaves the breadcrumbs for the sequel that's going to come eventually. But yeah, I had a good time. I enjoyed all the systems. It got a little bit repetitive towards the end. I feel especially like some of the battling through the different maps and hallways and that kind of thing. The dungeon crawling element of it started to get a little repetitive towards the end, but yeah, I enjoyed it overall. Also, it was very amusing when we got to the bit that was in that article about it being too easy. Beat it first time, like you did.
I don't get it.
I don't get it. The only thing I can think of is they weren't like doing the abilities of it was just playing Cloud the whole entire time. Like, wasn't like upgrading his companions at all.
Yeah. That's the thing. I feel like some people just play as Cloud. And I feel like if anyone listens to me complain about the AI not doing anything, they may take that as I never switched outside of Cloud, which isn't even my complaint there. My complaint is they need to do a little bit more when I'm not controlling them. I'm still happy to switch to them to do the input commands and do whatever, but just even fucking auto attack would be great, you know, like
just use your triangle attack, Barrett.
Yeah, something like that.
Use your overcharge. Freaking hell.
Yeah. Just basic stuff. Not to go down and complain about that too much anymore. But yeah, I do think that a lot of people were just like, oh, I'm Cloud. And I'm Cloud. Which is fine, you know, like the game, obviously it feels like Cloud's the main character because he is the main character, but at the same time...
There's sections where you're forced to not play as Cloud.
Yeah, but, which is another cool thing about the game, because that was... it literally, they kind of break you off at certain points and go, here, learn how to play this character, and then hopefully when you get all the characters back, you'll understand and be able to switch better and have an understanding of when this character's good for certain moves and whatever else. Because, like, Cloud does a fuck ton of damage, but he doesn't actually build up the breaker meter fast unless you're using his certain focused attacks that build up the armor break shit. Whereas Tifa can just fucking chew for you things to get their armor to break, and then you switch back to Cloud and go ham kind of thing. I only ever use Barrett. Oh, Barrett's not a bad focus breaker either, but yeah, the last however long it is, I feel like the ending of the game lasts for like a couple hours at least. Like,
yeah, I'm like, we get out of a building. I'm like, oh, this is where it ends. Nope, keeps going. Do a fun mini game. I'm like, that's a weird choice to end this game on. Nope, keep going.
Again, without spoilers, but does that last couple hours and certain boss fights not just feel the most Kingdom Heartsy of the whole fucking?
Oh, totally. Especially when the graphics are like more improved on everything else. It's like got that Kingdom Hearts, you know, the cutscenes that are like look super like they've spent 20 years working on them, like full on Pixar plus level graphics for certain sections. You're like, oh, this is a cutscene they've been spending forever on.
There's only a couple of those in the game, which is weird.
There's only.
Yeah. And you really notice it because one thing that stands out, because most of the game is in-engine cutscenes, is that the second they go to those pre-rendered ones, whatever weapon you had all your people wearing are just gone and they're back to being default.
Yeah.
because that was a cool thing. Because the game looks good in general for the most part. Because all the in-engine cutscenes would be like, oh, like Cloud would have his stupid baseball bat or whatever weapon he had attached to him. And then I remember it went to one cutscene. It was really jarring because I was like, what? He doesn't have the Buster Blade on. He's just, what's going on? I switched out his damn weapon. How do you feel about it comparing to, like, because you're not a massive Final Fantasy person, you got the Kingdom Hearts under the belt. Where would you kind of place it amongst what you've placed so far?
Compared to Kingdom Hearts? I think it's pretty comparable. I mean, it's different. Obviously, the play system is different. And, I think the story generally makes more sense than Kingdom Hearts generally does sometimes. So, yeah. Other than maybe the last hour and a half, I'm like, It seems obviously not playing the original definitely feels like that was added in to have a end on a climactic.
Oh, I mean, I don't think it's a spoiler to say, but the last couple hours of this game is not in the original at all.
Yeah,
like none of that's a thing. That's all new. Everything is new. Yeah. Did it live up to the hype then?
Yeah, I think so. It's definitely one of the top games of the year so far. So
stiff competition.
One of the top games. Yeah, it's yeah. Well, we're expecting games will come out. Hopefully,
are we?
Maybe.
Maybe. So we're gonna try. We are, now that you finished it, we're gonna try and organise to do a spoiler cast. I'll put that out there because it's gonna happen. There's no way it's not gonna happen. I'm gonna make it happen because I need to do it.
I went and checked Nick's trophies. He was one chapter behind me by the time I finished because you were saying he was going to beat me, so I made sure I powered through.
We're gonna try and get Nick on it if we can.
Die Hard Fantasy.
If we can organise the schedules right. Either way, we're gonna do one. If it's just the two of us, hopefully get Nick there. I'm gonna check out the question now. If anyone listening has a preference that can tell me the answers to this before we record, because I want to try and record within like the next week, 7-ish days, whatever. Because I have there's a dilemma with a spoiler cast, and I've spent the last couple of days trying to decide to go about it. You either do full spoilers only for this game, or you do full spoilers for this game plus also the original game, and then being able to discuss what happens. Or you do kind of a midway point where me and Nick, if we're on it, for instance, only kind of discuss stuff that is relevant from the original game to this game and not try and spoil potentially a lot of stuff that could happen in the future. Do you see what I'm having? Like a dilemma. I'm like, how spoilery do you want to go with it? Especially because you're there. You know?
If you were doing a spoiler cast on the third Harry Potter book movie, do you talk about the future books?
No, I guess not. The problem is there's a lot. It's very easy to, as soon as you start talking about the game, be like, oh, they did this, but they did this. Does that mean that this thing won't happen in the next game? Blah, 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 blah. I'm more wanting to just not go full spoiler, like spoil everything that could happen in the future of the game. Because I feel like that's obviously for people who don't want to spoil the future potential stuff.
I think the solution is we just do both.
I mean, there's one way to go about it. I just feel like they're completely different conversations, you know? Like it's interesting. And I feel like most people would just be going full spoilers. Like but then it's like you're potentially spoiling the story for like several more games if you're doing that.
You know?
Maybe.
Who knows?
I mean, I don't know at this stage. That's the thing. There's so much new stuff in here. There's so much stuff moved. There's so much taken out. I don't change. Anyway, so if anyone's listening and have got an answer to that question or a preference, you can let us know on the Twitters and whatever else, which will be plugged at the end of the show, of course. But yes, soon, spoilercast. I've only got 2 news stories this week because there's not much news, obviously. But one I would like to point out as just me, I'm going to chuck a tinfoil hat on with this one. So IGN writes, PS4 exclusive Wild gets unexpected art update. Now, I will say, if you're like, what the fuck is Wild? I'm pretty sure I brought this game up like a year ago when in a very similar story to this, because this story is about them updating art on a website. And I'm pretty sure I brought one up like a year ago. And at the time, it was like, what the fuck is this game doing? Like, Wild. Don't we all remember Wild? And again, if you're like, what the fuck? It's been around forever. Look, it's a PS4 exclusive. Get your shit together, right? Long dormant PS4 exclusive Wilds has gotten a small update with new concept images added to the website. Developed at a new studio, Wild Sheep, by Raymond and Beyond Good and Evil creator Michelle Ancel. Wild was announced first in 2014, but we've seen or heard nothing since a hands-off preview at Paris Games Week 2015. The 4 new images are in the gallery below, which you can find in the article, which will be linked in the show notes and whatever else. It looks very pretty. Art, some character designs, type stuff happening. The images appear as a slideshow on the Wild website homepage and have not been shown off previously. Slightly curiously, that slideshow also includes concept art of a giant bear that we have seen before. The website doesn't seem to have received any other update, and we know no more about the game itself or its development status. LinkedIn reveals the number of employees still at the company, however, and Wild Sheep Studio was advertising for new roles as recently as February. If the project is ongoing, it feels more likely the game would be introduced as a next-gen game rather than remain PS4 exclusive. They've contracted Wild Sheep but have no comment. I'm completely on board with that theory. I feel like potentially, and I'll go this far with my fucking tinfoil hat theory. They're updating the game's website because in the PS5 reveal that's going to be happening in a couple weeks, Wild's going to be one of the games in it.
I mean, maybe.
What? It's not that far-fetched.
I don't think, yeah, maybe just an updated look at it. Like, still no time frame on when it's actually going to come out. But, I mean, it's not that crazy. I feel like there was a couple of games that, like Wild, all came out, were released around the same time, about inhabiting animals and that kind of thing. None of them have come out. I swear there was one like a Ubisoft one, and
yeah, but the Ancestors
another one. No, not that one.
I think there was a couple. This one's always intrigued me though, because it always looked the most like stuff to do. Like it wasn't just you control animals and find fun stuff to do kind of thing. Like in the last trailer and whatever stuff they showed villains. They teased combat with variations of stuff. Like they teased sort of evil shaman type characters that you could potentially be fighting. And that led me to, you know, like picturing a fight where you can switch between different animals that are potentially around you, and then someone else could do the same. And you've got like an evil, like that seems like a cool type of a fight situation you could have happening. And then of course you're going to be fighting your way through other animals. And then I sort of guess there's a rock, paper, scissors, puzzly type element. I've always thought of it to be where it's like, oh, you need to defeat this bear to progress in the game. So you need to unlock or find the way to get the right animal that could take down the bear in like a stealthy way. So then that's like a pseudo puzzle thing. I've always thought the game has looked interesting. I always thought the art direction and stuff was really interesting. But you are right in that there was like a bunch that was revealed over like a 12-month period, and I can't remember them all, but there was at least a couple. This one, I think, is the first one though. Well, it's at least the first one I remember seeing. So it's always sat high on my, can we see more of the game? The game sounds cool. Show me more. Let's see what we go. And then, of course, new studio with Michelle Ancel. That was always intriguing. He's obviously always sort of pushed games in interesting directions with stuff he's done. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's potentially a PS5 game now, because that would also make sense. And if Sony repurposes it also just allows them to be like, look, you could have it come out on PS4, but fuck that. Let's just PS5 and then we have a game coming day one type thing. So
I mean, there's a certain prestige to being a launch title.
Yes. And more people will play it then.
Would we be talking about Knack the way we do if that released PS3? At the end of life cycle?
I feel like we would still be talking about it somewhat solely because it's a meme, plus it's a like exclusive. Like it's a proper Sony exclusive, you know?
Okay.
And, you know, you've got Sony up there talking about all the bullshit.
Yeah, but if you didn't do any of that,
Maybe
if it was
wouldn't be
released at the PS3. It wouldn't be a meme.
I can tell you when it wouldn't be a meme. I can tell you how it would not be as well known and not a meme. If Knack was a VR game that released a couple of years ago, that's when it would not have been as popular for sure.
Well,
and let's switch. Let's
VR comes out.
Alternate universe. Astrobot is just a generic third-person platformer that launches the PS4, and then it got lots of 6s and 7s because people were like, it's fine, but it does nothing special, because that's what Astrobot is if you take out the VR. And Knack is actually the Astrobot equivalent of VR in this alternate universe, and everyone's just loving it, talking about Knack being this amazing platformer within the VR. Yeah. There you go. Yeah, alternate universe.
Yeah, I don't know if Astrobot's as memeable as Knack.
I don't know. That robot character's pretty cute.
I mean, I think Astrobot merch would be like way up, like through the roof, because like
I'll
kids
buy it.
Love it and stuff.
Yeah, cute. They're cute characters, those little robots. And
yeah.
Shit. So I don't want Knack merchandise. Fucking creepy looking motherfucker.
Yeah.
Plus, I don't know how old he is. Like sometimes he's a kid, and then you eat some fucking blocks and shit. Next second, he's like as tall as a building, and he's like,
50-year-old man. Yeah.
Whoa, when's the new Game of Thrones episode? Like, how old are you, dude? They're like, the thing that always got me in that game too is the art style was like, man, this is a Nickelodeon cartoon. But then also it was hard because it was a game in which it was like kind of old school platformer where you had like 2 or 3 lives or whatever. So you can only get hit like 2 or 3 times and you'd die. And the checkpoints were always like semi far back. I remember playing it for the first time and being like, fuck, I'm dying a lot in this game. Because I expected to go into it like, Ratchet and Clank. You know, I was expecting a lighthearted Sony game. I think that's why Knack did not do well. Because it was actually a lot harder than it looked. Yeah. And I remember trying to play it on hard and I was like, the fuck? Fucking Demon Souls Knack over here. Get the hell out of here. So the next story is just about, there's 2 like, antiquated stories. So the first one was that PlayStation Canada refers to August 1st, the new release date of Ghost of Tsushima. So DualShockers pointed this out. They had up a post. The Canada website, they had a bunch of games there. Predator, Ghost of Tsushima, Avengers, Cyberpunk. All the release dates were fine, except for Ghost of Tsushima says 1st of August. So everyone starts freaking out over that. Now, there was this other story by Push Square in which they said the game has things have been quiet on Sucker Punch Studios game for a little while now, but it would seem Sony's confident in the 26th June release date. The latest scrap of evidence is this age of certificate. It got certed in Australia. The game has been classified as MA15 plus in Australia. So it's come through cert in Australia. So as far as I'm concerned, if I'm picking between Canada fucking something up and the game getting certed in Australia recently, I'm going to believe that it's still coming out on the 26th of June, and Canada's PlayStation website is run by the same people that run their fucking Walmarts.
I mean, it doesn't take much effort to get it certified.
They're not going to be putting it through cert if they think they're delaying it now, though.
But it's not like it changes their certification if it gets delayed.
But if they delay it and they have to put more stuff through, then if they continue working on the game, if they continue working on the game because of the delay and they add some stuff, then they have to get it recerted.
I don't think they're going to be adding stuff in like a month.
Look at me. I give you 2 stories here, right? I do my fact checking. So I see this DualShockers one first, game coming 1st of August. I go, bullshit. So I make sure I Google around. I find a different one where someone's like, hey, it got certed. I'm like, cool. I'll bring that to the show to give you evidence to believe that the game's coming out. And you still are like, no, Dylan, it's coming out in August.
I agree with the other story that said it is getting delayed that you provided.
Oh, good. I can't handle you between the PS5's not coming, telling me my games aren't coming, we're going to be on lockdown forever. Fucking.
I mean, America's not helping. They just aren't. So
that's a general just like quote. You can kind of just cut that out, just stick it as a response to everything. America's not helping. America's not helping at all. I saw a great meme the other day where someone, someone, you know, like that meme where it's the person with a stick like poking something, and people write different things. And it was the American flag, and it just said, "Come on, save us save us like you do in the movies." Yeah, wrong president, judge.
I mean, who knows at this point whether it'll come in or. I mean, the market is so bare that it would make sense, even if they take a small hit for it to come out while it can. Seeing as it's up against absolutely nothing, like entertainment wise, especially during the summer, barely any TV shows will be on like the main summer because it'll be the network TVs that they'll be on. Nothing's on in the cinema. Why not put out your Ninja Samurai game?
I still buy into it because I think the main big difference between this and The Last of Us is Last of Us, they were still like breakneck, going to fix as many bugs and stuff to have on the disc before going gold, instead of having to worry about a potential like day one patch to make sure the game isn't broken. So they couldn't print discs yet. So they ran out of time. Whereas Sucker Punch, as far as we know, game's going great. There's no reason until I hear otherwise to believe that the game isn't going great. And they had enough time they had months ahead to get the discs in the warehouse and figure out what the fuck logistically they were going to do. Whereas Last of Us only had like a month to go, which when the world's normal, it's quite often that they will just go gold a month before release, fucking 3 weeks before release, and magically print like 1 million discs and send them across the world. However, at the moment, obviously that isn't happening, and they needed more time to make sure they could do all these things. So I feel like the lead time on Ghost of Tsushima, they've just got more time to figure this shit out. They've had more time to go, all right, we'll get the discs, we'll print the discs, we'll send them to these stores. These stores are open. This store's open. Whatever. I think it's just all logistics. I mean, and honestly, what's the difference between in the world? What is August 1st? What kind of date is that anyway? It's not a date.
1st of August.
It's fucking bullshit date. It's nonsense date. Doesn't even make sense. Nothing's coming out August 1st. You look on the calendar. August 1st. Ready? It's fucking Saturday.
In Australia, it would be Friday, probably everyone.
But they're ahead, so it'd be fucking. It wouldn't come out here until Saturday. Yeah, like Sunday.
Yeah,
that ain't happening. Bullshit story. Bullshit. Get out of here. I don't want to hear it.
Yeah, it could just be an accident. Someone's accidentally set the date wrong.
Bloody Walmart people.
Yeah.
Hell
I am more on track that Ghost of Tsushima comes out when it comes out. I think they're looking at digital numbers and they're seeing such high purchases on digital platforms with certain games that maybe they're willing to risk it with Ghost of Tsushima.
Are you trying to say they're going to put out Ghost of Tsushima only digitally?
No. They're like, hey, the digital sales are so high that we might make up the difference between people who can't buy them retail.
Yeah. Which, yeah, I know. That's, the world we live in, which is a fucked up one, in that we're definitely, things aren't going to get better next month after, like we're ages away. At some point, you just got to sell shit, right? You gotta do something, or you at least gotta try to do something. So maybe they're willing to have Ghost of Tsushima just be like, man, no one brought this fucking game, eh? And be like, Last of Us is delayed until 2021. Get the hell out of here. Yeah. We'll see what happens. Like Disney's gonna chuck out fucking Artemis Fowl to Disney Plus or whatever.
That wasn't gonna make any money anyway. So.
And they're like, yeah, Mulan, Black Widow, you can stay back here. We're not putting that shit out. Artemis Fowl, they just like kicked out the door. They're like, see if you can make us some money, you little fucker. This is Platinum Explosion Special, where myself and Kieran are replaying The Last of Us and discussing our adventure ahead of The Last of Us Part 2, which is still definitely going to come out. Today we're talking about Chapter 6, Tommy's Dam, plus Chapter 7, The University. Overall, I would say these are the shortest chapters in the game.
I think they're short because of difficulty. Because I remember both of these sections being much longer. Yeah, especially the university. I remember there's one stage in the university I remember being stuck on for a very long time because it's so fucking hard. That this time it was so easy. I was like, okay, this is, yeah.
Yeah. I can't remember if there's been like a boss pulled out of somewhere or like more enemies. Or
I just think the infested room, the infected area in the university where you drop down and there's just like the fucking spores.
There's a bloater there, and
there's a bloater that sucks because I remember when on my original playthrough having to like calculate like, okay, I'm gonna shiv this one. I never killed it. I remember. Oh, no, I think I was clearing stuff. I don't think I cleared the bloater, but everything else, I was like shivving stuff in the head or like shooting my bow. And I remember being like, if I miss this bow shot, I have to reload because I don't have enough to do the whole thing. It's, so this time it was much easier. I think I killed everything in that first room because it gives you 1 billion flamethrower ammo and it's like, here, have fun.
Not complaining. As we've said before, enjoying playing on easy. Enjoying this. So there's 2 chapters, took about 90 minutes or 2 hours for me, I would say. And then I also found these 2 chapters quite interesting because from a story point of view, it's like the last section ends, it skips ahead, new season, and then you play these 2 chapters, and then at the end of this chapter, it skips ahead to winter and there's a whole big break. So these 2 chapters are very like secluded 2 chapters in the middle of the story kind of thing.
And it's very different in terms of overall. I think the overall aesthetic of this 2 periods change a lot. Like I feel like the university environment in this game there's no other environments really like it for the most of the game. I think the university feels very open and almost in some places very untouched by everything going on. There's that moment of bliss where you go into the university's like main courtyard. There's the monkeys and everything, and Ellie's getting excited about the monkeys.
Wait until she sees the giraffe. Oh, spoiler!
Spoilers, man! God damn it! Where I think it feels very open, and the dam's very lush and green, and you feel a lot more open and hopeful in some of those areas.
Well, the interesting thing about Tommy's, I'll just point out as we've been going through my dot points here, right? So, Tommy's Dam begins with you arriving, of course, at Tommy's Dam. And it's been obviously month or so, I don't know, like I can't remember like the exact date since we picked up last with Joel and Ellie, but they've changed clothes like this. And also the clothes Joel changes into is only for this section of the game, and then he's got different ones when we get to him next. So it's weird how they had enough assets on the little PS3 discs to allow the time to add in these new outfits and stuff. So we go down there. You think you're going to have to head further to find Tommy, but then they attempt to make their way through this dam section. And lo and behold, they find out that Tommy's actually held up there. He's now wed a nice young lady. He's also split from the Fireflies to kind of just do his own thing at this point in time. We discover ahead of this that the reason that Joel and his brother kind of stopped talking was over the Fireflies initially, although they never get more into it than that. But Ellie prods enough to get that much information out of Joel. So it seems very much like Tommy was come join the Fireflies, help save the world, and Joel's like, the world's fucked. Which suits his personality, you know. He's like, the world's not very worth saving. So. There's no point to that, blah, 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 blah. And Tommy was obviously the more hopeful one at this point. Tommy shows you around the dam. You can stop and interact with certain things if you want to. You get this part where he shows Joel that he went back to their old house and he picked up a picture of Sarah and Joel doesn't want 2 buts about it. Obviously, it's just still a very sore topic that he doesn't. But it's just so weird. Be like, dude, just no one's saying you have to look at it all the time, but surely you want a picture, considering as far as we're aware, he has none.
I guess it's just something even though it's been 20 years, I don't think it's something he has dealt with. Or he has
100%. He's just trying to forget about it.
He's just trying to move on and survive. I think for, the logical thing, not logical, but I think in some situations, he's not in the right place to really put it to rest and kind of, he's in this really fucked up and apocalyptic, place that he's just trying to survive. And I think survival for him has just come as more important than him sitting down and
dealing with his emotions.
Yeah.
So as Tommy's doing all that, Ellie hangs out with Maria, Tommy's wife, back at the sort of, I've called it base section, I guess, for what's going on here. And then Joel and Tommy explore a bit and they get to see the electricity coming back on because they've actually got the power generator working there because the water's flowing and all this sort of stuff. So it's a really cool setup they've got. You know, they've got gates, they've got power, they've got food growing. Tommy explains how they've got plants growing. It does sound like the pitch perfect kind of scenario in a apocalypse. You know, it's like season 2 or 3 of The Walking Dead where they're at the prison or whatever. And
very much.
They decide they start growing stuff and whatever else is going on there. But we all know how that ends up.
Surprised that that this one doesn't go to shit by the end of this, and they've waited for that, obviously. But
yeah, well, I've got a lot of questions coming into the second game of like what happens to Tommy. Does this pitch perfect life last forever kind of thing, and whatever else happens there. Of course, it'd be really interesting if we get to the sequel and Tommy has a child by the time we get to that point, a young child, and Ellie gets to interact with that young child. That could be an interesting dynamic.
Wouldn't even be that young. They'd probably be like 10, like 10-ish, like 10, 12.
This one's...
Ellie's at least like early 20s by the time.
Yeah, I think they've said it's only like, what, maybe 6 or something years. Like, I don't think it's not like 10, 15, 20 years later.
Because she's only 13. Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure she's like 19 or something. So...
Okay.
I think I'd have to look it all up. It's not that important now. But either way, like Tommy could have a child that's around 10-ish.
Yes,
maybe,
yeah, possibly.
Possibly. So then Joel asks Tommy to take Ellie off his hands and deliver her to the Fireflies.
I'd completely forgotten about this.
Oh, really?
Like,
just
I think
the whole thing, or the fact that he's super pushy about it, is just like fucking take her.
Oh, just this whole section for Joel, I've just completely either forgotten about or just subdued this. I remember the major plot points of go to dam, get attacked, chase after Ellie. I just couldn't remember why you had to chase after Ellie or anything like that. There was just no... So, to me, to relive that, and then... It's kind of hard to watch. Like, the second time, I think it's a much harder because I have a very... I don't want to say a set... ideal for Joel and Ellie, but I just have my appreciation and understanding of Joel and Ellie and their bond that you've grown because you've got to the end of this game. So it just feels so jarring that Joel is doing something so selfish in this moment. But at the same time, it's kind of amusing that if this had happened and Joel ended up separating from Ellie at this point, the ending of this game would be very different. Like what actually happens at the end would be a very different thing.
Yes, presumably. Unless they all just get, Tommy passes through the university as well and Tommy just dies there. Or Ellie just dies there as well. Possibly. Yeah. You don't know. Maybe Tommy's not as good as a fighter. But yeah, watching this whole stuff go down is quite awkward and certainly doesn't make you vote for Joel, you know, as the person sitting there. You're like, what the fuck, dude? Come on. But you know it's because he doesn't want to take on the possibility of, like, I take it, especially now playing it for the second time, as he's starting to get somewhat attached, obviously.
Very much.
So he wants to push that away so he never has to go through a Sarah situation ever again, you know?
100%. It's very selfish for him, where he just doesn't want to deal with that being a possibility. I think it even makes it sadder at the start of this chapter, because the first section of this chapter where you're making your way to the dam, there's a lot of... You can tell how close Joel and Ellie are by this point, just through their talking and their interacting with each other and just kind of working through the quote-unquote puzzle that is the little bridge section you have to do.
Yeah.
There's just... It's a lot better and a more bonded relationship now. It's just almost surprising that Joel is still in the back of his head planning to ditch Ellie here.
As soon as he finds Tommy. Yeah. So then these people attack somehow. Bandits arrive. I don't know how they all managed to sneak in, considering, like, as soon as Joel and Ellie try to get in, they got a million guns pointed at them at the front gate, but all of a sudden there's bandits just fucking everywhere. But sure, video games. Joel and Tommy fight their way back through all this, though. And then when Joel gets back to Ellie. He's like running up, like, "Oh, are you okay?" All this sort of stuff, and it shows you that Tommy's watching that, and it spurs him to make the decision that he'll actually take Ellie off Joel's hands. And once again, I take this as if Tommy's looking, seeing the way Joel is acting with this young girl, and going, "I get it. Obviously, he doesn't want to go for Sarah again."
Yeah,
that's how
I think it very much is, and especially with, I think that in that situation. Tommy's not only seeing how Joel's interacting with Ellie, but he's also seeing Ellie being Ellie fully for the first time, and her interaction with Joel.
Because she's like, "Oh, Joel, I did this, and then you see that guy, he went over there, and I did this thing, and then we shot
Joel's
him."
Just like, whoa, are you okay? Are you hurt? Like, are you good? Like, yeah, I think it just showed Tommy a lot that, okay, Joel isn't just doing this because he doesn't want to. It's because
doesn't want the responsibility solely. He doesn't want to do it from a more personal thing. But he wasn't saying that directly to Tommy. He wasn't explaining, and Tommy kind of pieces it together.
But that's because Joel is just a shit human being expressing his emotions in 99% of any situation.
Yep. So then Tommy tries explaining that to Maria. Maria's obviously very upset. She starts talking about becoming one of these widowed, like, apocalypse survivor scenarios. I did start wondering if it was actually implied here, like, somewhat that she could already be
I think maybe.
Pregnant?
I thought they either maybe or that they might. I don't think they had a kid yet, but it was definitely implied that she could be pregnant for it.
Yeah. I mean, and then 9 months now, so then the kid, just Last of Us 2. Coming soon. Find out. Ellie sees all the fighting happening. She more or less puts 2 and 2 together of what's actually happening. So she steals a horse and takes off. Joel and Tommy follow her horse tracks to a abandoned sort of neighborhood somewhere far away, and she's in this abandoned house. And then Joel ends up finding her upstairs, and they have a very loud, open fight about what's going on. Ellie expresses how Ellie actually expresses how she's feeling, whereas Joel does not. And Ellie explains how everyone she's ever known, she's lost. She's starting to get attached to Joel, like really liking him, and then straight away he's pushing her away. So it's very understandable to see where she's coming from. And although I can understand where Joel's coming from, you're still just like, fuck's sake, Joel.
I think it's just the point. I think it's breaking his heart hearing her say these things still. But he just doesn't want to let himself just fully accept what's happening and fully embrace it. And that's why he lashes out and says, "You're not my daughter, and I'm not your father.
Yeah,
I'll never be your father." Like,
my fucking heart breaks.
Yeah, it's really hard to hear that because the bond between them is so strong, and so there's such. It's something that a lot of games and writers fail to capture is the relationship like Joel and Ellie have throughout this game. It breaks your heart even more. I will say, just overall from a gameplay point of view in this game, all the bandit stuff in this part is just so unnecessary. It just feels like somebody's been like...
Yeah, it's adding game when you know they don't actually want it to be a gamey here. I'm pretty sure in a different world where this would be just more of a walking simulator type level, but they're like, it's a video game. We got to add fights of all these bandits and blah, blah, blah.
The section where you have to fight the bandits while chasing after Ellie, and I'd completely forgotten about this, and I was like, what the hell is this? Ellie ran through this already? Like,
yeah, somehow.
Right, okay, sure.
That is the most, let's interrupt the story stuff to give you a fight because it's a video game. Yeah. And I'm hoping there's a lot less of that in the sequel potentially, in a world where this game's like games coming out these days. Even if they are like action games, you'll have entire levels, for example, in The Witcher or whatever, where there's like no combat and all it is silly sort of stuff and its story and whatever else.
I think we have more hope of that because I think there was more of it in Uncharted 4. There was more just exploration and character interactions in Uncharted 4. So I think that does show some kind of positivity towards The Last of Us.
Yeah. So I'll definitely say that is the sole fun that stands out in the game design aspect of this, replaying it. It's just all the very video gamey type stuff. but that whole fight's horrible. I started tearing up, even though I know it goes away, but I'm still, especially when he says the part about you never being a daughter, I'm like, oh no. And then I found it so annoying that they're like, oh, are you crying now? Yeah, we'll fight these fucking bandits for your tears. I'm like, yeah. Oh, just let me have a moment.
I'm sorry about your daughter, Joel, but I have lost people too.
You have no idea what loss is.
Everyone I have cared for has either died or left me. Everyone fucking except for you. So don't tell me that I would be safer with someone else, because the truth is I would just be more scared.
You're right. You're not my daughter. And I sure as hell ain't your dad.
Well, I think it's a good thing where, like, I've this thing, and I don't know, it might just be like the action person, hero, lover in my head, but I love Tommy's kind of respect for Joel when it comes to killing people. Tommy says a couple lines throughout this that you can tell that Tommy just understands that Joel just operates in a better manner than anybody else in this kind of environment. I think there's one part where you go into a room during the dam section and Tommy's like, Joel, do what you do. And you just
it implies that when they were together before they split, that Joel was just ham killer dude, kind of.
Yeah, yeah.
And maybe that was all because he just wanted an outlet for his rage, I guess, at that time. So he just turned into a very violent person, possibly. So
yeah, but yeah, you just it's a chance for Joel just to go freaking John Wick on a bunch of guys in a house.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
So on the way back though, Joel watching and thinking about everything that's happened has a change of heart. I don't know if you could like kind of pinpoint the exact spurring or if it's just the fact between the fight and then like her coming, like listening to her on the way back and just thinking over it, mulling over it. He just obviously has a change of heart.
I think it's good direction to, you could have easily just gone from like a jump scene from the house to being stood over Jackson very easily, but it allowed the couple, like the minute piece of them riding and Joel just like more featuring on Joel looking at Ellie and just you could tell you know he's thinking. Yeah, and it lets you know, and I think it's just, it makes like, I think I really like this scene above Jackson. I really enjoy, even though Joel, once again, you can't express your emotions, but he does it in such a way that Ellie doesn't go, what the fuck are you doing? What is with this change of heart or anything? Ellie's just in on it straight away, like, yep, this is what's going on. Yeah.
Yeah, because he's not like, oh, sorry, or like, oh, sorry, Tommy, oh, sorry, Ellie, all this stuff. He's like, you take those horses back there, or take this one, give it up that. And everyone's like, why? What's going on? He's like, well, I need one to take Ellie. Like, it's just, it doesn't, very bad explain what's going on. So then it's sometime later, maybe a couple days, maybe a day. I don't really know. It doesn't really matter. Not that long though. And they arrive at this university, which is where supposedly they're going to find a possible Firefly base. So that's why they are exploring here. Inside, a lot of this chapter is, before you get to sections of fighting, is just finding a lot of notes and general environmental storytelling sort of stuff. But then, of course, they do the same sort of thing where they try and break it up with bits of combat here and there instead of just giving a more through line of straight up just environmental storytelling. But anyway, you find the monkeys, as you mentioned, signs of Firefly's life, being there because you find the graffiti and whatever else. And then you find out that they're all either dead or moved on. And, I just remembered the one thing I was going to point out from that last level. That last level is one of only, I think, 2 that doesn't actually have any infected enemies in it, is the interesting thing. Dam. That was the one, the other thing I was going to point out, but yeah. So then Joel and Ellie find this journal video. I also find it funny when they start listening to the tape. It's like, in my life, I'll bring you right back. I was born on, it's like, fast forward. And then I used to begin to contemplate, I find it funny how it's like starts fast forwarding for it all.
Yeah.
So then they reveal that this dude does reveal that whichever's are left or whatever Fireflies are still going on, they're going to go to their main base, which is now in Salt Lake City. And just as they get done listening to it, a bandit shoots at them from down below. And of course, now's where I was talking about before, where you begin fighting away through a bunch of bandits and so on and so forth. And you're like, oh, this is cool, no problem. Until one of them pulls Joel backwards off the ledge of the university building at some point, and Joel falls off like a full story. I think it is like 1 story length, and he lands with this pole directly going through his body. Which I remember the first time I played it, I was like, what the fuck? Because I'm like, my dude's dead. Like, you know, like how the hell is he surviving this? And then what happens following that is Ellie has to prove she can look after Joel in this whole section, as much as Joel's still trying his hardest to be macho, don't need you, I'll look after you still, even though I'm very obviously struggling to even stand and do anything here, because it's a cool and good sequence, because of course the vision's blurry, you have to walk slow, there's this couple sections where you have to like shoot people even though you can't do anything, and even the part that ends like so brutal where Joel like passes out on the ground for a couple of seconds and then comes to just in time to see Ellie shooting some, and then she gets whacked so fucking hard by that dude with like a plank of wood or some shit, and then she turns around and whatever it was, it sounded like it hurt. That's for sure. And then they managed to make their way barely outside. Joel's passes out, and then it's implied that Ellie gets him onto the horse somehow. Although I do question how Ellie, a young girl, manages to get Joel's whole heavy ass body on the horse.
I was thinking of it at the time, and I was like, maybe she like managed to fashion some kind of tarp or something to drag him behind the horse gently or something. I don't know.
No, because it's like you got to imagine there's still some bandits around, and they were trying to get out of there ASAP. So I think you just have to give it a video game.
Or maybe Joel, even though he's blacked out, was still conscious.
Comes too long enough to kind of get on the horse. Yeah,
I think the thing that didn't strike me for the first time playing this, but definitely struck me this time, and maybe it was just because I didn't have the initial shock of what was happening, but was just the sheer amount of blood that was just
coming out of Joel. It's like
coming out of Joel,
flying out of him.
But like just stuff like I hadn't noticed just how when Ellie's helping him after she puts you down against like a desk or something, her arms and like most of her sleeves are just like covered in blood. And I just had never noticed that. Like there's the obvious signs of like when he like slides down like the side of a desk because he's sitting against it, there's just blood streaks on it. But just the amount of it there, and just everything really kind of just sells the desperation that's going on. Once again, remember the fighting the bandits taking a lot longer in the past, so it was very short.
Made it more cinematic though, to not have to like fail and replay or spend ages on any of the fights and whatever. That's why I always tell people just to play Uncharted games on easy. So it's the same sort of like, and if I wasn't worried about trophies, I would probably just play all of them on easy, because I just find it's more cinematic flair, and that's the same, I guess, for The Last of Us here. But so of course that's where it ends, and then it cuts away to blank, says winter, and we'll pick up that part in 2 weeks' time, because next week we're actually going to be talking about The Last of Us's only story DLC content, which was the Left Behind DLC, because in case you're unaware, that is actually where this DLC fits in chronologically, because not spoilers, no, this whole thing's a spoiler segment, obviously. You should have played it, it's a PlayStation podcast, come on. But Left Behind DLC starts after this part, and then it shows you what happens to Joel and Ellie, and then it's like Ellie then starts flashing back and remembering. So story-wise, it's actually, this is where it slots in, everyone. So get ready for that. So we're back talking about that one next week, and then we're into the last leg of The Last of Us's story content, and we're heading towards the finish line, kind of.
There's not that much left. I think I'm interested to see how much the first winter chunk is, because I don't remember how long that section is, but definitely the later going up to the hospital and in the hospital sections are very short. So
it's very streamlined,
a very streamlined and more game based, because I remember most of that was just dying and dying and dying and dying and shooting. Exactly. So I don't think we have that much left at all.
So get excited, everyone. See you next week. that'll do it for this week's episode of Platinum Explosion. You can follow us all on Twitter by heading to explosionnetwork.com/Twitter. You can suggest topics or send in questions for the show by emailing mail@explosionnetwork.com with the subject line Platinum Explosion. Of course, mail or Twitters. Tell me, review discussion. How spoilery do we go? Let me know. Until next week, remember that every trophy counts. Hey, don't forget you can subscribe to the show wherever you're currently listening, and you can drop a review if you can. Find more great shows like this and more content over at explosionnetwork.com, and please consider supporting us for as little as $1 over on our Ko-fi page by heading to explosionnetwork.com/support. Thanks for listening.